The demon of Sertão, A Cabra-Cabriola. Northeast Brazil, late 1800s. In the vast arid plains of the Sertão, life was a battle between the unforgiving sun and the cruel hardships of poverty. Small villages, isolated and scattered like stars in the night, were bound by shared fears and whispers of the old legends that shaped their lives. In the village of São João dos Sertões, nestled among the harsh Caatinga scrublands, the evenings carried with them a wind that whispered ancient names. One in particular sent shivers down every spine: A Cabra-Cabriola. Children would clutch their mothers' skirts at dusk, for it was said that when the sun bled into the horizon, Cabra-Cabriola emerged from the shadows. She had the head of a goat, but her eyes, those cursed, glowing red eyes, belonged to a creature born from the darkest nightmares. Her hooves cracked the earth with every step, and her stench of rot carried on the wind like a grim reminder of her hunt. She came not for cattle, nor for men, but for children. Naughty, disobedient children. In São João dos Sertões everyone knew the legend, but few believed, until Antonio's son, young Joãozinho, went missing. The boy had been warned, as all children were.
Be home before nightfall, or the Cabra-Cabriola will come for you.
His father, a stern man hardened by drought and hunger, had threatened more than once. But Joãozinho, full of the reckless curiosity of a child, wandered too far that day. The sun dipped lower and lower as he played near the dried riverbed, chasing lizards and kicking stones. By the time he realized he was alone, the sky had darkened and the village seemed far away. The night air was thick, suffocating with silence. He began to run. Then he heard it, a heavy, uneven step behind him, the scrape of hooves on stone. Fear paralyzed him as he turned around. Standing there, silhouetted against the twilight, was a monstrous figure, a Cabra-Cabriola. Her sharp horns glistened in the faint moonlight, and her long, twisted neck jerked unnaturally as if sniffing the air. Her teeth, jagged and stained, clicked together, gnashing as she stepped closer. Joãozinho tried to scream, but no sound escaped his throat. The last thing the boy saw before the darkness claimed him was the burning red glow of her eyes. The next morning, Antonio and the villagers searched everywhere, through the brush, the empty riverbed, the surrounding hills. Not a trace of the boy was found, save for a small patch of trampled ground near the riverbed. No one spoke aloud what they feared, but the village elders exchanged knowing glances. The Cabra-Cabriola had taken him. Days turned into weeks, and the village fell into despair. Mothers gripped their children tighter. Fathers cursed the gods for forsaking them. But in the dead of night, as the wind howled through the brittle branches, some swore they heard it, the distant sound of hooves and a child's cry swallowed by the wind. Word spread quickly through the Sertão, and soon the story of Joãozinho reached the ears of an old bruxa, a witch who lived on the fringes of the village, shunned by the pious folk for her dealings with the unknown. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, she appeared at Antonio's doorstep, her face twisted with age but her eyes sharp with knowledge.
The Cabra-Cabriola is no mere beast,
she warned.
It is drawn to the sins of children, but it is the guilt of the parents that feeds it.
Antonio's face paled.
I warned him. I did everything.
The witch shook her head.
It is not about the warnings. It is about what you have hidden, what festers beneath.
She spoke of an old blood debt, a crime Antonio had committed years before, when he was desperate, when survival was all that mattered, a debt paid in the blood of a man who had begged for mercy, a man whose children were left orphaned. Joãozinho was but a pawn in a much older game, one played by the unforgiving spirits that roamed the Sertão, one that had awoken the Cabra-Cabriola. Antonio, desperate to save what little remained of his family, followed the witch's instructions. He would confront the creature in the place where it was born, the old ruin of Alto do Mourão, a forgotten village destroyed by drought and violence. The witch had warned that the Cabra-Cabriola could only be banished by the blood of its creator, the man Antonio had killed. On a moonless night, Antonio ventured to the ruins. The air was thick and the silence was unbearable. Then, through the mist, he saw her. The Cabra-Cabriola stood among the crumbling stones, her twisted form illuminated by the ghostly light of the stars.
You took my son,
Antonio cried, drawing his knife. The creature turned its head slowly, her eyes burning with a hatred as old as the land itself. But as she approached, Antonio did not flee. He knelt before her, plunging the knife into his own palm, offering his blood as payment for the debt. The Cabra-Cabriola paused, sniffing the air. The glowing hatred in her eyes flickered. Antonio's blood dripped onto the earth, mixing with the dust of the ruins. In the eerie silence, the creature's form began to fade, unraveling into the night like smoke. But before she vanished, her eyes fixed on Antonio, and a single word escaped her jagged mouth.
Dead.
Juanzinho was never found, and Antonio was forever haunted by his sins. Some say the Cabra-Cabriola still roams the plains of the Sertão, drawn to the scent of guilt and regret. Her hooves echo in the night, searching for the next parent whose hidden sins will doom their children to her jaws. The wind still carries her name, and in São João dos Sertões, children sleep with one eye open, terrified of the demon who comes in the night for the wicked.